we'll get started.
You're like a non-starter.
Yeah, I don't think we have enough for a quorum, so we won't be able to approve the minutes. We'll have to postpone that until the next meeting. But we can do a roll call for who's here.
Kristen Zumar.
Bree Rivera.
Cynthia Batty. Vera Worthy.
Okay. The next topic for discussion is the plus comments for the flats at River Edge, 130, 150 Lukens Drive. As it stands right now, we've not received any comments yet for that project, so we don't have any thing to specifically reference regarding that, other than if you wanted to go back over the plus report and any recommendations that they had. Does anyone have anything specific they wanted to go over, or did you want to go through some of the recommendations again? If you have more time to look over it since the last meeting.
They were going to provide an update, weren't they?
Yeah, that's not been received yet. And as of right now, my understanding is that Chris Rogers and Dan Losco had a conference call with the applicant, and they have still not provided the comments yet, but Chris was going to provide a recommendation to the planning committee, I believe in the August meeting. And they discussed the merits of the comprehensive plan amendment first with them. So I don't know where things are going to stand with that yet until Chris comes back for the next meeting.
We have not seen anything updated from the plus yet,
Okay.
and we talked about it today just to make sure one of us wouldn't sit in somebody's email box or anything.
Okay. Do you know if comments were like made in regards to the initial report?
Well, what I mean is, so that the plus letter is going to be revised,
Oh, okay.
because there were some things in there that were not
Incorrect.
appropriate.
Okay.
Can I say something about this? I've been thinking about it a lot. I like the project. I want to make that really clear. And I feel concerned myself about the fact that from an infrastructure perspective, I don't have anything to bring to this, right? I can't say stormwater runoff or anything else. Oh, look, we just got, does it count if he shows up now?
I guess so. I think we now have a quorum. We have 5 now. So we can vote on the minutes.
Okay, well, we can come back to that. But what I was wondering is, I find it, I mean, is the thinking process between us and you, is this considered the workshop, or are there other things? Thank you, because I feel like we should get deeper into some of this stuff, and I'm not sure that we have, and I want to do the responsible thing, and I just am wondering, don't we need more than this? Or
Well, I think-
am I ignorant?
Well, I think part of it, and this might come up next month with Chris's recommendation, is whether or not we are going to consider changing the comprehensive plan to change that, because until that recommendation is made, I don't know that they're going to have a public forum or anything, because if we're going to say we don't want to do it, or
Right.
the city isn't interested and everybody's on board with not doing anything about it, then there's no need for a public forum, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
But I think a lot of that's going to come from probably the next month's meeting, when we have a little bit more input from hopefully the comments that we're expecting on this plus letter here, and then the recommendation from Chris himself.
I was thinking though that from a public forum perspective, that the neighborhood that lives closest to there should have some input. We should have a meeting with them or hold some forum where they can hear what's happening and discuss it. Because while it's remote from them, they are the closest neighbors, and so they may have thoughts or want to express their concerns, or I don't know. I think we
Or
need
the
to-
impact to their community.
The impact, yeah. Based on having seen it today, I don't think there will be a lot of impact, and even the concerns about traffic strike me as minor, given that it goes up Cherry Lane or whatever that street is called. I mean, it doesn't even get onto the territory of the city, really. So, and the traffic, in and out traffic is handled by a traffic light that's outside of the city. So that I say the city where people are living and having their homes. But I was thinking more like some of the things that were on my mind is putting in infrastructure, which will need longer term maintenance, and me wanting to understand better the ramifications of that, especially if there's not a homeowners community there. You know, that sets up some dynamics for who owns that infrastructure later. And I don't think we've answered those questions. So I just don't know if that's something that we just do in this forum, or do we have a special workshop meeting to discuss it? I just don't know the answer, but I don't think
I
we've gotten
think
to the
Chris had
bottom of that.
suggested a workshop at the last meeting. Like, I just don't know where that stands based on the direction they want to suggest moving and what we can and can't do as a committee.
Okay.
So I don't know where that stands, but I know that it was brought up at the last meeting as a suggestion as well.
The other thing I'm mindful of is, because I went through this with a trade association I was a member of for many years, that every month that we don't do something is another month before you guys can do something, right? And there's a point of fairness that we need to consider, because I don't know what you budgeted for all your folks that come in here. And I think we owe it to you to have as expeditious as possible decision on it, because it's just a money sink right now until it gets a yes vote, right? So I'm mindful of their investment and that we need to do something.
I could be wrong, but I think when you guys did first meet, you guys said that you expected it to draw out until there's like a.
Yeah, I missed the first
Yeah, I
meeting,
know,
so
that's
yeah,
what-
thank you.
that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Listen, we don't expect this to be,
Right.
this is
Exactly.
complex project. Some of the questions haven't been answered yet. And the answer, probably the general answer to your infrastructure question is, right now, we intend to own it all and lease it out. Therefore, we as the landlord would take care of all the maintenance. It wouldn't be the responsibility of the city, which is essentially the question, who's responsible for it? The only road that could potentially become ultimately under the ownership of the city would be that one, what's called a stack of the single family homes around. That may be the only road. Everything else would probably be maintained by us.
Yeah,
So more would be maintained by us. And that's where that sits today.
but Lucan's Road is not a very nice road at this point in time. It needs something done to it. Who owns that?
So that's a good question. We own it. It does ultimately get turned over to the city. We have not, so you're missing, what's missing is the surface course. And that's done on purpose because we don't want to beat the snot out of it while all this construction is going on. And you have to go in, you would
Fix it
actually have to repair it, the city would have to repair it. So we're actually the city's actually been kind of happy that we haven't turned it over to them yet, because that's one road they haven't had to maintain for quite a long time. We actually inherited the road when we bought this site, and we actually have done some significant amount of repairs to it. A lot of the curbs been repaired, and we have fixed a lot of the base course. That's the course you see now. So yeah, you're missing about an inch and a half, 2 inches of surface. So that's not going to happen until this project's done.
I don't know. Anyway, I'll be quiet now, but this has been on my mind. This whole thing is like, what else do we need to know to make a decision? And it's because I'm new in this process. I kind of don't know what to ask, and that worries me. So
I will tell you that Nicholas will say the same thing. This is why we're here. We want the input. You know, I don't want this to be my vision, or just Nicholas's vision. I said earlier, we want the community to be excited about it too. Yeah, we're going to be out there selling it, but you guys could be selling it too, just because you're so excited about it. So let's get your involvement, let's get your input, let's get your ideas. Well,
But does anyone have any specific questions or like additional input based on like the recommendations that were in the plus letter? I know that we're waiting on a revision on it, but is there any topics in particular? Anyone wants to discuss?
We have drafted our responses, but we're waiting on that.
Revised.
So that we're responding to the right
Yeah,
Yeah.
document.
I think
Okay,
I
so-
brought up what I was concerned about the last meeting, and without the revisions
Yeah.
and the responses, it's kind of hard to move forward. with
Yeah,
it.
so I mean, that was the challenge with kind of having it on the
We
agenda
understand.
today.
This
We
is
didn't
just
have a whole
it's
bunch.
a check-in, that's how I saw it.
Yeah.
Check-in, it's an opportunity. You get to know us a little bit more, we get to know you guys, ask better questions on your mind, so.
And are there any updates from your end that you think would be helpful for us to know and have noted in the minutes?
Probably nothing, other than, we did meet with the solicitor and with the planner, and we're trying to sort of fine tune what the process is gonna look like. I don't know if we're 100% there yet. Sean Tucker, the attorney, is on his way here, but he gave me I'm running late.
That's okay.
It's not unusual. So, yeah, I mean, nothing's really new on that, other than we're continuing the dialogue, and that's why we're here tonight. We wanted to make sure we didn't, I think gaps are dangerous. Because if you're not communicating things, people start assuming their own, they fill in the gaps.
Mhm.
So that's why we're here, to make sure that we don't have any gaps.
Can I ask one more question? Thank you. In looking at the land itself, it has a topology, it undulates, it has higher places, lower places. And from the drawings, it's hard to tell whether you intend to preserve any of that undulation of the land, or if you're gonna just smooth it all out, or what is it you're gonna do?
I don't know that we know that yet, to be honest with you, because right now we're looking at a flat piece of paper
Right,
and sort of making things fit. I don't think it's gonna end up being flat, because I think that, ironically, the floodplain elevation changes across the property.
yeah, you can see that,
At one end, it's elevation 8,
right,
and at the other end, it's elevation 10.
yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how just the mapping, it's a big area, but it's not that big an area. However, that's what the map.
There's a lot of
shows.
changes in height
There is-
throughout.
There is changes.
And there's something good for humans about things that aren't just flat.
Yeah, I don't
know,
think we'll be.
So,
I don't think, again, we haven't done the design, we did talk a little bit about it today. And, obviously there's the floodplain issue, and of course that's where it is today. Where's it gonna be down the road? Those are some questions that we're trying to understand a little bit better, and maybe do some future planning in the process.
I noticed too, there are groves of trees on it, which may not survive, I understand that. But there's a big stand of trees between what I guess is the northish end of the property and the parking lot of the place next door, which is kind of nice.
Most of that, I believe, is gonna be staying.
I think that
It preserves that isolation we were talking about.
you need a line of demarcation between the industrial area and where people are gonna have their,
And honestly, the reason why the trees are there is it's wetlands.
Yeah.
Because it dies off.
goes down there.
So
Oh, good,
that
okay,
sort of naturally preserves it.
okay, good. All right, I'll try to be quiet.
No, this is good. This is really fun.
The only question I have is, so in regards to like the sea level issue, have you guys looked at, or would you consider like filling, and doing anything like that to kind of raise the area up more? Is that
Yes.
something that you guys are
Yes.
considering in your plans? And,
I can without a doubt say yes.
okay,
How much? That's part of what we're gonna be discussing with our design team. He's pretty young. So if we don't deal with it now, he's gonna have to deal with it down the road. So I'm trying to keep his life a little bit easier.
does anyone else have anything else to say, or? No? So I'm just gonna back up to the approval of the minutes then, since we know not here, that's okay.
That's correct.
So I'm assuming you guys all got a chance to look at them and you had a correction done?
I just want to clarify, I mean,
Okay.
my comment, I think that I'm not sure what the planning commission's role is. It's noted there was a rhetorical.
Can you speak up, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It says, Mr. Lovely asked if marketing aspects of the project are within the purview of the planning commission.
Page, I'm
and-
sorry,
yeah.
page.
Oh, I'm
Page
sorry,
five.
page 5, yeah. And I didn't ask that because I didn't think that it was. I just wanted to make sure that we were clear that our role is not to be concerned with the marketing so much as the scope in which we are responsible for. So I don't know how to phrase that.
Okay,
Um,
you didn't ask the question, but you wanted to know if it was within the planning
I asked it, but I asked it as rhetorical as if to say, our role is not,
clarify
yeah, our role is not to worry about the marketing, right? That, if that makes any sense,
To clarify that we.
that we are
as-
not responsible for what people are gonna like and not like about the project, more so about the project, so.
I'm still not sure how you want to
Okay,
make it, if you want to make an edit.
all right, okay,
I need more direction.
just Mr. Lovely noted that we are not responsible, the marketing aspect of the project is not within the purview of the planning commission.
So not asked, just stated.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though I did, you're right, I did phrase it as a question.
I do think though, to what we were discussing a moment ago, that the creating a simpatico thing that appends to this important historic town, is it keeping that somehow all speaking to each other is something that we do have a stake in. So, so for that, yeah, but if they lose their shirt, that's not our problem. I think that's really what we're
Sorry, well,
saying.
and I think there's just certain things, there's like, well, some people may not like all that much traffic. It's like, well, some people. I mean, I was just concerned that we were trying to make judgments for people who may want to live or may not want to live there based on their taste, that's all. So, but no, you're
Fair
right.
enough, yeah.
Yeah, everyone has to.
Were there any other edits that anyone had? So along with that edit, is there a motion to approve the minutes then?
I'll motion.
Second? All approved? With that, we'll move on to the special projects. I actually got an update from Gail on both of these. In regards to the MAPCO transportation plan, the draft plan is online for review by the transportation planning team until the end of July. Heather Dunnigan, principal planner with MAPCO, plans to have it reviewed by a couple of MAPCO committees in August and September, and they'll bring it to the city of Newcastle for review and adoption in the fall. So that is where that project stands. Otherwise, we don't have anything new unless anyone else has heard anything on the committee here.
May I ask a question about it? It all happened before I got here.
Mhm.
And so my question is this to try to address the traffic flowing through the whole city or certain parts of the city or?
It was it somewhat is to address that in a couple of areas. It's also to address like gateways and things like that,
Okay.
like both like curb appeal as well as
Oh, good.
traffic with them.
All right. good.
And if you go onto the website, as I said, there is a document. I have a link here, but
Okay.
it's a kind of odd looking link. So
Okay.
it might be better to look it up, but
Yeah, I'll go look it up.
but they do have plans online. They discussed it at city council meeting previously, and there were some recommendations that were made that I think most people found pretty favorable. They also took public opinion and did sort of a survey on ideas and which ideas sort of worked best with the community. And so the community members voted on certain things. And so I think they went with some of those recommendations
Okay.
that people voted on.
I'll go read it.
It's very well attended to by the public. There's a lot of
Yeah, and they
feedback.
had a couple of workshops and things like that. So
Okay.
So it's-
So it's pretty near the end now.
yeah, I think so.
Okay, good.
You said the draft is online until the end of this month.
That's what it says, yeah, and that was from an update that Gail had received. And then in regards to the sea level rise task force, Gail is a member of that committee and provided an update. She noted that they reviewed available information on the impact of the sea level rise in the city of Newcastle and possible actions for remediation. Newcastle studies reviewed include the vulnerability assessment and adaptation plan of 2018, assessment of dike alternatives and structure floodproofing measures 2019, and elevations of properties being done now. And preparing a list of actions the task force recommends that the city take for the remediation of sea level rise. Actions could include gap. There are 4 earthen dikes along the Delaware River in the city of Newcastle: Buttonwood Dike, Broad Dike, Gabagorda Dike, and Army Creek Dike. There is a gap in between the dikes, which encompasses the historic district, structures on National Historic Register, museum houses, Main Street, Delaware Street, and Battery Park. This area is not protected and at elevations lower than surrounding dikes. And then the next area was dikes. The 4 earthen dikes along the Delaware River, Buttonwood, Broad, Gambleport, and Army Creek were constructed over 300 years ago. They were improved in 2014 and raised to a level of 8.5 feet. Unfortunately, as construction was occurring, FEMA reset the 100-year floodplain elevation to 9 feet. Furthermore, the city of Newcastle's vulnerability assessment and adaptation plan dated 2018 identified with projected sea level rise, the dike should be raised above 9 feet. And then there were some numbered items below that said gap engineering for an earthen berm or combination of floodproofing structures, gap design, gap construction, dikes data modeling and cost benefit analysis for alternative heights, dikes engineering and design, and dikes construction. The evaluation and improvement of marshes and creeks in the city of Newcastle causing neighborhood flooding, and the development of and implementation of floodproofing measures for individual structures. And then finally, analysis and amendment of existing city code and zoning to make adjustments for sea level rise. And they're working on identifying potential funding sources and what portions of the cost they are likely to cover. The task force divided up a list of possible funding sources for follow-up. A couple of sources that look promising is the Natural Resources Conservation Service of the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, and then DEMA and FEMA. And that was based on the last update that Gail had from the committee that she's on. And I don't think anyone else is participating in the meeting. I don't think anyone else has comments, but feel free to have. I don't have any answers to questions, but Gail can probably answer next week if anyone has any updates or issues with any of that.
I would just say that I think recent events in climate may cause all these things to get revised again rather soon. So, so we need to be mindful of that.
We should plan to do more than what,
Do 10?
do more than what's suggested.
Yeah.
I fear.
And that's all we had on the agenda as items to discuss. I don't, if any commission members have comments specifically they wanted to address while we're here.
I just want to say thanks so much for the name plaques. It's so great. Next time I'm going to ask for a Rolls Royce, but I think the name plaques are really wonderful. So thank you.
Here we go. And then there was nothing else. We will open up for public comments. I do have one email comment that I'll read first, if you don't mind. This is from Dorothy Fisk. And it was received today. And it says the multifamily projects being considered within our city limits, especially the ones on Lucas Drive, which will greatly enlarge the city population, must be thoroughly examined. Those making these decisions for all city residents need to think carefully about their impacts on the town, especially now, when flooding is already a major problem and is going to become much worse. It's important to remember that developers build projects to make money for themselves, not to improve the town. Once they've sold their work, they have no more interest or responsibility for its effects on us. We have to rely on our city administrators to do what's best for Newcastle and to insist on proper size, relevant to the town and quality design and building with respect to Parkway Gravel, who are presenting the Lucas Drive project. The track record of Aurora, who created Riverbend on Route 9 decades ago, is not encouraging. There should be a building moratorium in order for the city to have breathing space to decide what will be good for Newcastle, not for the developers. I was shocked when a proposal for moratorium was voted down in 2019. And that is the only email comment that I have to read, so we can open it up to the public if you'd like to take turns.
Yes, Philip Gross, 1301 13th Street. I agree with the one-year moratorium, and I highly recommend and suggest and hope that this committee makes that recommendation to council, as I brought it up to the other committees and commissions. Second, Ms. Batty, I think your comments were inappropriate. One saying, oh, you're for it, but then making a follow-up comment when your project gets approved. I think it's inappropriate. I think it's putting the cart before the horse. As far as the impact on neighboring communities, on September's meeting, we'll have plenty of people. If you want a picture, I can email it to you. Because I think that was out of step and unethical. But in September, we will have people from the Buckland community that do feel that their street, even though it's been reassured 100 times over, I've got plenty of pictures of the whole project, including the close proximity to their street. No doubt, at some point, I think it's going to be an access road because according to the state, you'll get your plus report back. But the Lucas Drive Cherry Lane intersection will not be able to handle any more than the trucks and cars that are going through there. And you can't expand because of the gates to the neighboring buildings. You can't really expand on that intersection. So traffic's got to go somewhere. As far as filling in and leveling out dirt, to answer your question, Ms. Batty, there's mounds of dirt on the property. They've been there for 6 months, and the mounds keep growing. So I think they have plenty of dirt that they're going to be filling in wetlands and other parts of that property. I think the comprehensive plan was set up and plenty of time spent on it so that changing it now, if nobody thought that it was necessary to put in such a massive project by a school and jamming up an already busy intersection, they would have done it. They chose not to do it. So again, there's plenty of reasons to not accept the project in the scope and size that it's being presented. And last but not least, the Riverbend project, their last project, turned into a debacle. Wetlands were filled in, the land was sold off, and to this day, houses are, it's just, you're going to run into the same project. Once you sign off on it, nobody will have any control over the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, my name's Tom Whitehead. Just a brief background. I'm a licensed surveyor in Delaware, New Jersey. I have been since 1969. My surveying career started with the Seabees in 1960. And I have several things here. I was expecting to see some sort of a plan, even just a schematic, where we could, has that happened? I mean,
They
it
have
is a
to, at the
public
last
meeting.
meeting, they did bring some visuals with them. But
I saw
they didn't
it.
bring them to this meeting because we're still waiting on an updated letter of responses as well.
But I mean, and I have several things here, just bear with me. I've been on several boards citizen, not as a surveyor. Okay, and Mrs. Beatty or Patty is it? I mean, that was horrific what you said. You should be disqualified for smoozing with a contract. I don't know the man. He seems like a nice man. But to say, I don't see any problems. Oh, we want to get it moving along. Don't you know that's wrong? I resent that. That's just wrong. I've never seen that before. I was a member of a board of adjustment. I've had my own business for a long time. Was on a county construction board of appeals. That's wrong. Get your facts before you go on and on and on. I mean, and as far as talking about filling in, if there's wetlands, you cannot fill wetlands in. It's a trade-off. So I mean, just please get your facts.
Sir,
Wait a
you should
minute,
get
I
this
have the
book,
floor.
and then you can
You
understand.
don't have to preach to me, okay,
Well,
about it, please, nor you, Rogers. You know, if you're here, you should step in. You should step in and say something. You should say something. Now, as far as the plans go, Mr. Ferrara, but this gentleman, yeah, I have a question. I'm not against you. I'm just trying to get some facts. Your single family home, is that R3 zone?
The project is gonna be a combination of GC and order.
Okay, the R, which R3 is it?
I don't know.
Because the original R3, the original R3 is 5 foot side with 15, not the, where you can build right on the property.
I don't think that's what we're intending to do.
Okay, because that's,
Yeah.
that's, I'm not,
I don't think we have any single families that are on the property line.
because that causes so many. It,
Arguments between neighbors.
you know, you're the, I mean, and as far as the, I have a comment on the sea level rise task force. And I've done many floodplain certificates. As far as I'm concerned, the number one concern, and maybe you could back me up on it, being a builder, and I've talked to several people about, believe me, I check into things, okay? They should be looking at setting the way the town is now. Chris, maybe you can answer this, or Mr. Rogers. whatever you
This is
want.
Matt Lovely.
Mr. Rogers,
Mr. Rogers is not here today.
What you,
He's Matt Lovely.
I'm just a.
okay, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Maybe you can answer this then. The way you are set up now in Newcastle, what is your base flood elevation for your home? 9.5? Yeah, you're not.
I don't know the answer to
Okay, because the way I understand it, the way things are now, there's a freeboard of 1.5 feet. In other words, your base front elevation, the top of that table is 9.5 feet. You can actually go down only 1.5 feet, only 1.5 feet. So what's really important in this town, what's really important is to get that squared away. my book, you should be down below the lowest crawl space or sour level with your 100-year flood elevation. Your 100-year flood shouldn't be allowed to say come a foot and a half. The water shouldn't be able to rise to within the bottom of that table, within a foot and a half and the bottom of that table. So in my book, as far as Battery Park raising the walkway or this or that, that can go on for years and people can talk about it. The new homes that they're building around here, I think you should be up around 14 and a half, not 10 and a half. Not 10 and a half. There's no way if I build a house on the river, now what I know, would I build that thing within a foot and a half higher than the so-called 100-year flood elevation. That's what I consider important.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Pardon me?
Thank you for your comments. I'm gonna give someone else. No other comments?
I'd like to comment. Thank you. My name's Karen Igo. I live on Cherry Street. And yeah, I'm just here basically, I do want to advocate just for that land. I'm trying to like catch up with everything that's happened. So, and I have been going to the Sea Level Rise Commission meetings. That's very important to me. And I feel like with this development, it's my understanding that they're going to change the zoning to allow this to go through, if that's right.
Well, I mean, that's the topic of discussion is whether or not they were gonna change the zoning. So
Yeah.
that decision hasn't
Yeah.
been made yet.
Wonderful. I'd like to really implore that you don't do that. I think anything we can do to discourage development of that pristine land is really important. I think when we have a town that is so low, that it's so vulnerable, I've had more than once where I have to actually wait to get home because 9 and 13 are flooded. So, you know, this is a serious problem to the point that we have a commission to address a problem that in my, I believe, educated opinion, this development will only exacerbate. I mean, we can't continue to deforest pristine land near water and expect it not to flood. I own a business in Trolley Square. I have a lot of people that come in checking out the neighborhood, and they check out Old Newcastle as well because we're very well known for being a cool place to live. I've had more than one person tell me, there's no way I'd live in that, I can't remember the name of it right now, but the 55 and older, the thing that already went in, River Edge, and they're like, who would buy there? Who would buy there? It's gonna flood. And I drove to the location that we're talking about tonight earlier. It's gonna flood. It is going to flood. And right now with our problems that we have with our climate crisis, which is, you know, just exponentially developing. I mean, we had staffers sitting in Chuck Schumer's office today, the climate staffers begging for people to take this seriously. This is where it starts, is with local boards like yourselves, taking that 7th generation view. What we need to be doing right now, in my opinion, is shoring up every resource that we have here, not removing the very things that keep us as safe as we can, which is our natural ecosystems, our trees, not developing, not one more pristine piece of land should be developed. If they want to develop somewhere, do it somewhere that's already developed. But let this land, let the animals, the insects, we have farms here. Those farms don't work without insects. You know, it's all together. We cannot keep taking and taking. And like I say, we have a commission on for this small town directly on the opposite of the view of this development, because you can't save your ecosystems and help your climate when you're destroying the very things that balance it. But I beg you to please take the long view here. Please think about, you know, our basic needs, our food, our water, our electricity, not whether or not, you know, this company can come in from wherever they're from, develop in our land and make whatever money, and also I implore you to look into this track record issue. I don't know if that's true or not, but if they really did leave a mess somewhere, let's please make sure that that is something we consider, because why, we don't need, do we need this? Do we need this here? I don't know that we do. I don't know that we need this here in Old Newcastle. I'm done. Thank you so much.
That's okay. Thank you very much for your comments.
Yeah.
So with that, if there's no other public comments, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.